Ask any seasoned hockey fan about the dead puck era, and you'll likely get a similar response, and a close consensus about how NHL hockey was played at the time. They'll tell you that clutching and grabbing, oversized goalies, and the neutral zone trap resulted in a lumbering low-scoring game in which defense-first and counter-attack philosophies ruled the day. For those reasons and more, many view the dead puck era as a forgettable snooze fest, the dark age of NHL history. But I remember things differently, and in this video, I'm gonna argue that the dead puck era was actually amazing. The dead puck era is generally considered to have begun in the mid-90s, particularly after the 94-95 lockout, and lasted till around 2003 to 2004. The era was characterized by a significant drop in goals per game, due to the widespread use of the neutral zone trap and other defensive systems like the left wing lock. Goalies also got better, and their equipment got bigger, with the butterfly style becoming more widespread. On top of that, there was an increase in clutching and grabbing, and interference and hooking, all of which slowed down the game. The short answer to what caused the dead puck era is Jacques Lemaire and the New Jersey Devils. Every fan's heard the refrain that the NHL is a copycat league, and in the mid-90s, everyone wanted to be like the Devils.
Here's 88, Lindros makes the move, and Lindros is hammered down to the ice by Scott Stevens. And Lindros remains down on the ice as all the other players come together.
Oh boy. Oh boy. This is the worst case scenario here for Eric Lindros.
After years of the fast-paced fire wagon hockey of the 80s and early 90s, Jacques Lemaire found another way to win. He made defensive systems trendy, and suddenly fans and media were spending hours talking about the neutral zone trap. He also brought in defensive specialists as assistant coaches, and broadened his NHL scouting staff to gather intel about opponents. Part of the reason the Devils made these adjustments was the changing landscape of the league. From 1991 to 2001, the NHL added 9 teams, and gradually expanded the player pool by 43%. More teams opened up more NHL jobs, which were filled by lower-skilled players, which required defensive schemes to organize them, which ultimately led to fewer goals. From 1976 to 1992, an average NHL game featured 7.5 goals, compared to just 5.1 goals per game at the height of the dead puck era. In 1993 alone, scoring dropped by nearly a goal per game, which was the largest single-season decline since World War II. From there, scoring continued to fall, and by 2004, it had dropped to 5.1 goals per game, the lowest average since the mid-50s. Gone forever were 7+ goals a game, and dynasties by teams stacked with the greatest scorers in NHL history. Dominant teams didn't disappear, but the formula for winning did a complete 180. The headline of the dead puck era was the dramatic drop in scoring, but that doesn't tell the entire story. Even though it was more difficult to score than ever, the decade saw some of the greatest offensive talents of all time. There was Peter Forsberg, whose 1.25 points per game ranked 9th all-time, and Pavel Bure, whose .62 goals per game ranked 6th best. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, as the era gave us some of the greatest players of all time.
The icing goes, no icing. Lindros barreling in. Moran, but Moran sticks it away, then grabs Lindros' stick. Lindros says, you don't do that. And he thumps him into the board. Moran with a punch to the back of Lindros. Nedved comes in high, and Lindros, but the Flyers get the puck. Lindros, without his stick, trying to kick the puck free, does to Leclerc. Leclerc now to Lindros, still without his stick, controlling the puck. What work? Now Lindros has his stick back and has the puck. Lindros checked by Tamer, kicking the puck along the board, finally knocked down. Lindros continues to work from his knees. What strength by Lindros. Tamer just can't get him off the puck. And Tamer's a big, strong guy. Or Brospel. Lindros is in the slot. Brospel moves in. There's Lindros. He scores! Oh, Brospel spotted him, and Lindros whipped it home. Power play goal, 4-1 Philadelphia.
At the same time the strategy of the game was changing, so were the demographics. From 1993 to 2004, the number of European players in the NHL increased massively. Swedish players increased 117%, the Czechs increased 161%, the Finns and Slovaks both increased 280%, while American and Russian players barely rose, and Canadian players declined by 3%. And a lot of those European players dominated the league, including legends like Nick Lidstrom, Sergei Fedorov, Peter Bondra, and Jaromir Jagr.
Gets it across to Jagr as he's dumped the centering pass. Lidstrom was there, anticipated, cut it off, and lugs the puck out through center. Nick Lidstrom, great move, shoots, scores! What a goal! Nick Lidstrom
Lidstrom shorthanded, 2-1 Wings.
Lidstrom goes very aggressively up the ice. As soon as he looked up, he saw he had Kovalev. Kovalev goes for the fake, he walks around, and this is an absolute rocket to the corner. What a turnaround for the Detroit Red Wings.
Goaltending also went to another level, with Patrick Roy, Marty Brodeur, and Dominik Hasek giving us some of the greatest goaltending performances of all time. It starts with Roy, who led the Habs to the Stanley Cup as a rookie in 1986. He ended his career with 3 Conn Smythes and 4 Stanley Cups, and by perfecting the butterfly style, he had a massive influence on modern goaltending.
I can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
Then there's Brodeur, who was the perfect backstop for the Devils' smothering defense. In addition to making clutch saves, he was also a master of playing the puck, which made it difficult for teams to dump the puck and to get by the Devils' trap.
Brought on by Lemieux, who's got a breakaway. Niedermeyer trying to catch him, and Lemieux is in. Save Brodeur, and the puck winds up underneath him. Wow!
Finally, there's Dominik Hasek, who had an amazing run, where he won 6 Vezinas and 2 Hart trophies in the span of 8 years. He was also a playoff performer, leading the Sabres to the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals, and finally winning a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings in 2002, and once again in 2008.
Fired in over the line to Yager, trying to cut it on goal! Hasek! Oh, what an unbelievable save! Dominik Hasek tried to stick check him, missed him, and just threw his pads out and made an incredible save.
Speaking of the playoffs, the dead puck era saw some of the greatest rivalries and playoff matchups of all time. For me, it starts with the Red Wings and Avalanche, who had one of the most violent rivalries in NHL history. From 1996 to 2002, the Wings and Avs met in the playoffs 5 times and combined to win 5 Stanley Cups. It started in the 1996 Western Conference Finals, where the President's Trophy-winning Red Wings were the favorites to win the Stanley Cup and end their 4-decade Stanley Cup drought. But the Avs won the first 2 games, taking a 2-0 series lead back home to Denver. In Game 3, Wings forward Slava Kozlov slammed Adam Foote's face into the glass, opening a huge gash on Foote's forehead. Despite the dangerous nature of the play, Kozlov didn't get a penalty, which angered the Avs, especially Claude Lemieux. With a reputation as one of the most hated players in the league, he took matters into his own hands and sucker punched Kozlov. Later in the series, he caught Chris Draper with a dangerous hit, which sent Draper to the hospital with a broken jaw and shattered cheek. The Avs ultimately eliminated the Wings and went on to win the Stanley Cup, but their rivalry with the Red Wings was only beginning. The next season, Red Wings coach Scotty Bowman used Claude Lemieux's lack of remorse as a rallying cry to get his team to add some edge to their game. The Detroit News published a wanted poster of Lemieux in the paper with a headline that called for revenge. The game featured tons of fighting, including Darren McCarty jumping public enemy number 1. And Patrick Roy and Brendan Shanahan continued the brawl with an epic collision. The brawl escalated into a goalie fight, and by the time the game was over, the refs had handed out 18 majors for fighting. The teams ended up meeting in the conference finals for the 2nd straight year, where the heated rivalry continued. With the Wings leading 6-0 in Game 4, Avs head coach Mark Crawford lost his mind and unleashed a verbal assault on Scotty Bowman. The Wings ended up winning the series in 6, and went on to win their first Stanley Cup in 42 years. The rivalry continued into the next season, with the teams adding another 208 penalty minutes to the ledger in April, including a fight between Patrick Roy and Chris Osgood. Sticking with the Avalanche, another great moment came in 2001, when after 22 seasons, Ray Bourque finally won the Stanley Cup.
And after 22 years, Raymond Bourque!
Another iconic moment came in the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals, when Brett Hull scored the most infamous cup-winning goal of all time.
By Hull, shot, Yarlin, Hull, loose puck, Hull, shot, the Devils star, Brett Hull, they've won the Stanley Cup!
If you're looking for the details, I did a deep dive on the topic. But to make a long story short, subject to some exceptions, scoring with your foot in the crease was against the rules. The goal counted, but people argued about it in the immediate aftermath, and continue to argue about it to this day. Another controversial moment came in the 2004 Stanley Cup Finals, which I consider the greatest finals ever. The series pitted the workmanlike Flames against the stacked Lightning, who gave us one of the most intense series in history. It featured fights between superstars, epic overtime battles, and one of the most controversial finals moments of all time. Heading into Game 6 in Calgary, the Flames were one win away from the Stanley Cup. With 7 minutes left in regulation, the game was tied at 2 and the Flames were on the power play. Flames forward Oleg Saprikin threw the puck towards the slot, where it redirected off Marty Jelina's skate. Goaltender Nikolai Habibulin flashed his right pad to stop the puck from crossing the line. The Lightning sent the puck down the ice and the play carried on. But as it turned out, the puck was far closer to crossing the goal line than anyone realized.
And then Habibulin kicked it, I think kicked it out. Off the right skate.
And oh my gracious, it went across the line. It absolutely is in.
While the broadcast crew was still trying to make sense of the replay, the linesman dropped the puck and the game carried on. Neither team scored until 33 seconds into the second overtime period, when Marty St. Louis snuck a rebound past Mika Kiprusoff, sending the series back to Tampa for Game 7, where the Lightning claimed the Stanley Cup, leaving Flames fans wondering what could have been. Another highlight of the dead puck era saw Bettman secure a national television deal, which brought NHL hockey into the mainstream in the United States. The funny thing is, Fox signed the deal on the condition the league would introduce the Fox Tracks glowing puck, which I happen to think is one of the most hilarious developments in NHL history. Let me know what you remember about the dead puck era in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to support the channel.
Made sure not to put that whammy on. Passed out near side of the corner, tried to draw it around and down on the ice.
Oh my goodness.
Is that Paul Kariya?
Yes, it is.
Paul Kariya leveled
My, and
by
he's
Scott
had cushion problems in the past. This is the first open ice big hit that Scott Stevens has thrown in the series. Paul Kariya landed on his back and didn't move.
And Paul Kariya knows not to cut through the middle towards Stevens' side.
Oh my.
I talked to him about it. That is why Babcock doesn't mind this matchup if Paul Kariya stays on the left side, because he goes down against Brian Rafalski. When he cuts across, he's cutting right towards Scott Stevens' side.
Oh my, I'm not sure, guys, where the puck was at the time. Looks like he wants to get up on his own and show some toughness here, but he went on his back and he never moved. And look at the wobbly, and look at his legs. Oh, baby.
Guarantee he doesn't know where he is.
Coach Babcock, well, here's the play. Puck in his feet, on his stick. He moves it. Oh, guys, that's interference.
Never saw that coming because Stevens came from his right and he was looking left. And the fans on their feet because Paul Kariya has just come back from the dressing room and onto the bench. Into the zone, Sikora kicked it out, got it back, near side Kariya. Kariya, the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
I have goosebumps. That's unbelievable.
Make that three of us, and I haven't even asked Gary yet. Look at this shot. Just a laser that was by Marty Brodeur before he could see it. A dramatic period for Paul Kariya.